Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. In this episode, I'm joined by Jim Garrett, Senior Director of Product Strategy and Planning for Luxury Audio at Harman, the company that's probably best known for the JBL brand, but that's not it by any means. Jim's a longtime industry friend and someone who knows a lot about big fancy speakers, amplifiers, and acoustics. And he is really involved right now in a bunch of new products that would have come out at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, but had a big virtual event. And I want to talk to him about that and kind of get to know him a little bit better for the audience. Jim, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Always good to talk to you.
Happy New Year. And I wanted to just check in. You know, it's been a weird year for everybody the past year. We're in a new one. Still kind of weird. Pretty weird.
Yeah.
How are things going?
Yeah,
for
hold
you?
my beer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty much how this year's kind of kicked off, right?
Oh my God.
So
yeah, so you've been busy, I'm sure, getting ready for the big product introduction. But how are things going there? Are you reporting to headquarters at all? Are you all virtual all the time?
yeah, we're virtual, as you can see from my lovely home environment here. So I've been working from home since middle of March, basically.
Okay.
And there's no signs of that changing anytime soon. Of course, I'm based here in Northridge, so we're in the Los Angeles area, and we're basically on lockdown again. But we've been working remotely, and we made the adjustment fairly early in the year. And in a lot of ways, I think it helped improve our productivity. We're still able to go into the engineering facilities there because, you don't have an anechoic chamber at home to do things like that.
Sure.
So we've had a skeleton crew that goes in there. We rotate the staff around and, observe all the safe protocols of masks and distancing, and only a limited number of people there in the building. But so I've been in like 4 or 5 times since March.
Okay.
So it's
not a lot.
It's been, yeah. So we spend a lot of time, obviously, on WebEx or Zoom or Teams, and it's, sitting in front of the camera a lot. But I think in a lot of ways, it's improved communication and really kind of given us a little bit more focus. And we had a great year last year. It was a very successful year for us, which, I think you looked back to March and everybody was like, oh my gosh, the world's going to end,
Right.
kind of thing. And you didn't know what the future is going to be. And then as we just wrapped up December, looking back on the accomplishments we did, it was a really, really good year for us. I think we're going to carry that strong momentum here. It's a little weird, of course, that we can't be having this conversation in person,
Right.
in Vegas, and it's strange after, a couple decades in the industry to not be there at that show, which is kind of an annual, rite of passage. We all kick off the year here post New Year's with this. So certainly some differences, but again, I think we're excited. 3 innovations awards, 8 new products announced here, and we're just doing it in a different way, virtually. So
yeah, well, I would say that it's kind of a Pavlovian feeling at the end of the holidays, getting ready to go to Vegas. I don't go every year like you do. I kind of pick and choose the ones I attend, and it's I didn't go last year, but I mean, you guys have kind of taken the mantle of the old Monster Cable concert ritual as well, and I saw in your virtual event that you tried to kind of bring that into the event a little bit. That was cool.
Yeah, not quite the same as if we were there for his concert in person. I'm sure a little bit of a different experience, but it's still very cool, and a lot of feedback. People really enjoyed Keith's performance. So
yeah. So say again who it is. Like
sorry, Keith Urban.
Keith
is
Urban.
who we had perform this year. So
yeah,
virtual performance.
He seemed like a really personable guy. I'm not necessarily a Keith Urban fan, but I would have enjoyed that concert in person. The best one that I attended was Elton John. That was just amazing to me that you guys pulled that one off.
Phenomenal show. Yeah. I think Keith's got some new fans based on people that watched this that went in, like yourself, said, well, I didn't know him, or maybe wasn't a fan before, but then when they saw the performance, they're like, I like that guy. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and usually thanks to your PR team, we've had a lot of in-person meetings over the years, and recently a year year and a half ago, I guess I was in the headquarters there in Northridge with you,
Yep.
and got a chance to look at some stuff ahead of CEDIA, which of course we didn't have a CEDIA this year. We had the virtual event. You
Yep.
did have that pretty cool virtual product introduction that I attended a while back, and I'm losing track of what month that was. Was that pre-CEDIA time period, or?
It was October. So the one we did
right
for Mark
after.
Levinson, the Mark Levinson Unveils event, which was basically a virtual product launch that we did, because again, the world's changed, and without trade shows as launch platforms for it, we created our own. But yeah, I know it seems maybe longer ago, but it was October that we did that one.
Okay. And then you and I go back even further. This is your life for a bit, but you and I know, I'm pretty sure we first met in your office at Klipsch, which is another great audio brand where you got your feet wet, I guess. And I specifically remember walking into your office. I don't know if that's the first time I'd met you, but I do remember it. And then I was having a tour of the facility there, not too far down the street from where I live right now. Is that where you got your start in the audio business?
From a manufacturing side, yes. So on a retail side is really where it began. I went to school and got a degree in film and television production. And when I first started off there, I grew up in the Midwest and lived in Indiana most of my life, not far from where you are now. And it was kind of one of those things. It's like, oh, you got to move to New York or Los Angeles. I don't want to do that. I'll stay around. And so I worked in the consumer electronics industry right out of the gate as a assistant store manager at Best Buy there in the Indianapolis market, and helped to open up when Best Buy first came to town. And so that's really what got me started, and worked my way up through there, and in that region for Indiana and those first stores there, and grand opening teams, and that got me really fired up. I came into this because audio was always my hobby. And so, after school, and again, of the film and television thing, kind of diverting from that, it's like, well, I love audio. I'm a musician, and it's always been a hobby. And so that's what got me in, and then moved into specialty retail with a high-end dealer there in the local market. And we sold a lot of these brands. So Mark Levinson, we were a Proceed dealer, Lexicon dealer. So it's interesting that, as I found my way, through Klipsch, I spent a number of years there, which was my first step into manufacturing. And then now working on these brands that I used to sell at retail it's been phenomenal. I never would have thought, back then, as much as I loved, the products, we had a high-end room with, a Mark Levinson system, and we had Teal loudspeakers and some other things like that. And to now be the person responsible for the product portfolio of these iconic brands that we have has been a fantastic job. I couldn't ask for anything more. It's a tremendous amount of resources we have, the people highly passionate, a lot of musicians and just music lovers, and it's been great. It's been a wonderful journey. So
yeah, and on your way out to the West Coast, you took a brief stop at CEDIA headquarters, but then you were at Harman in your first part of your time with up in Mishawaka, Indiana, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. So yes, I did spend just shy of a year with CEDIA and with Jeff Gardner and some of the guys there on the education side. So we were doing the designer, technician, colleges, the boot camps and things like that, which was a great thing to do. And then when I first joined and saw the opportunity to work with these brands, they at the time had been based, when they had moved from the East Coast, based them in the Mishawaka building there where the Crown factory was at the time. And so we had this little team of people who were managing the luxury brands there out of that facility. So I was still in Indiana, but then not too long after that, a couple of years after I joined, then it was, hey, we're going to give you another opportunity to be responsible for some more of the products and the loudspeakers we did, JBL and Infinity at the time. Do you want to come out to Los Angeles? So all of this dates back to, again, with my career of like, I don't want to move to the West Coast or the East Coast. And well, here we are. Now I've been in Los Angeles for 8 years, and it's kind of the way it worked. But yeah, we moved basically everything that facility there, the Crown factory, has been moved, and all of us that were there, we moved before the facility moved out because that's part of Harman Professional. And then us with the luxury team, we've been based here in Los Angeles for well, basically since 2013 now.
So explain to listeners and viewers who don't know what's under the luxury audio flag for Harman. What brands are you working with?
Yeah, so we're responsible for pretty much a lot of the flagship products and the premium brands that are here. So luxury audio today, we are responsible for Mark Levinson, Arcam, JBL Synthesis, Revel, Lexicon, and now also all of the JBL consumer loudspeakers, the traditional, in-wall and ceilings, and all the box product. So we've got really, I'd say it's 5.5 brands that we do, because with the exception, JBL is shared amongst all the other business units in Harman, but the rest of the brands that we do are exclusive to the luxury audio business unit. So we manage everything that is those brands rather than specific types of products for those brands.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that JBL, which I do consider kind of the name that most people would recognize who aren't really in the consumer electronics industry, has become more of your consumer electronics, handle as well as the luxury stuff. And you of course still have the pro products as well. So you're talking big time speakers that are in commercial facilities and theaters and places like that are that have other parts of the company intention there and at that facility as well, right?
Yeah, that's one of the great things about it. Of course, 2021, we're kicking off the 75th anniversary of the brand. JBL today, in its current incarnation, is probably one of the largest audio brands in the world. And we're involved in a number of different categories. And of course, I think the incredible products that we make now on the portable Bluetooth speakers and our headphones, and we've just entered the gaming headphone arena. That stuff's been tremendous for us on the consumer side. As you mentioned, the professional audio side, which is most of those guys are based here in Los Angeles as well too. We're a major player in that part of the industry as well. And I think it's, for me, one of the things that I like with the JBL brand is that we're probably the only brand that is involved in every aspect of music and video, from content creation up front to, playback, whether it's, so you think about if something's being recorded, whether it's music or movies, a post-production studio or a recording studio for an album, they're using our, JBL products and technologies there. If you were to go to a live concert event or a sporting arena or a movie theater, you got JBL technologies there. If you're watching it at home and the products that we do and your home theater system there or your hi-fi speakers, it's our technology, and it's consistent across there. The transducer technologies, the horn technologies and geometries we use, it's consistent across there. But to be involved in that, again, from content creation to playback in the home, it's a really wonderful thing to do. And it's such a broad reach with the JBL brand right now. I don't think there's really any other brand that has that reach into so many different categories.
Yeah, it reminds me on the video side, the way Sony tells that story from the camera to the TV, basically.
It's the equivalent on the video side for sure.
Yeah. I want to just kind of cover what you do with the luxury audio brands before we take a break. So one last question for you, and then we'll get into the products, because I know that that's a big focus right now, is what the new stuff is all about. But can you explain what a senior director of product strategy and planning kind of does day to day? Are you talking to the engineers when they're coming up with new updates on products or ideas for new products in the early stages, and then trying to sort of strategize like that? Or how does it really work?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I love about the job is that I get to be involved in a little bit of everything. But the core responsibilities of my team, so all of the product managers that are executing new product introductions and basically building the products, that's part of my team. And so in my role, I'm responsible for our general roadmap, the direction where we're going, what products are we going to make? Why are we making them? So doing that upfront research of defining, white space opportunities, what's out there, what do we need to do, general portfolio management. So, the line charts that we have for each of the brands. And then, so we create those product concepts up front. And of course, then we're working with the engineering team, whether it's, acoustic engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, industrial design, to make sure that the vision that we had for the products initially it comes to life out at the end. And then we also get to work along the way. Of course, you can throw in, supply chain and operations and things that are there and getting it to the market. We have a pretty heavy hand in the marketing side as well, and getting the assets and things that are necessary to support the products at launch. It's our responsibility to educate our sales team internally. So all, the global sales team for Harman Luxury Audio that's going to sell these products to our dealers and distributors, you've got to get them educated about it. So when we, have done these product announcements like you see here, there's been a lot of activity that's already happened up front that, they're educated on it. The planning's done up front, forecasting, demand, order loading, so that when products are ready to come, they're there. Everybody knows everything they need to do. We have a training team that's actually some of the guys that work on our training. That's part of my group as well. So it's a little bit of everything in that respect. But for me as a creative individual, that's what's amazing about it, is to be able to take something of a thought that comes up is like, hey, we should do this, or what if we did this, and to see that through to walk into a store and there's a product there, or customers that are posting their systems at home. And really that's where you get the satisfaction. I love music, and that's the reason I'm in this industry, and so to have other people enjoy it to the fullest, that is really the joy that I get out of it. So.
Well, we'll continue our conversation with Jim Garrett after a short break.
Thanks for listening to Residential Tech Talks. Today's episode is brought to you by SONY. SONY's OLED TVs and Master Series meet the strict criteria of the top engineers and makes beautiful images a reality. Their 4K HDR TVs pair the brilliance of 4K with the brightness, color, and detail of high dynamic range. See how every scene comes to life with extraordinary realism. Discover a new level of immersive cinematic audio at home. With Dolby Atmos and acoustic surface audio, you'll enjoy three-dimensional surround sound that takes your breath away. See everything new from the world of Sony USA, including electronics, the new PlayStation 5, movies, music, and TV shows. Visit www.sony.com to learn more.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Harman Luxury Audio's Jim Garrett. Jim, you were starting to talk about the products and everything that you're involved in there, and we just got finished with the Harman Explore virtual event, where several product introductions from the luxury audio unit there were unveiled, and so I kind of just wanted to walk through some of those with you, maybe starting with a bit of nostalgia and celebration of the 75th anniversary of JBL. And if you could kind of talk about what was introduced there from a speaker and amplifier standpoint, integrated amplifier, that would be really cool. I'd love to know the thought process on those two products.
Yeah, that's with the 75th anniversary for JBL. That's obviously a major milestone,
Sure,
for any type of business. But for us, when we kind of went back and looked at this and said, well, if we're going to do a celebration of the brand throughout the year, what do we want to do that's something special? And for us, to use the L100, probably one of the most iconic, best-selling JBL, traditional home loudspeakers ever, and certainly something that put JBL on the map big time for products. We said that we've had this successful reintroduction, at the fall of 2018 with the L100 Classic. Let's make a special commemorative edition version of that and use that as something special to kick off the anniversary. So that's what we've announced here as part of the CES Harman Explore event that we just did. And it's basically going to be a limited production version of the L100 Classic. So the focus on this is on a unique finish. That's the very first thing that people notice is this beautiful teak wood veneer that's wrapped around it. A normal L100 is a walnut cabinet with a black front baffle and a black back panel. This is now teak wood veneer on all sides of the cabinet. So we've made a couple of changes to the woofer suspensions, some minor improvements there. We changed the back to a by-wire input cup, nicer posts, and the ability to, by-wire, by-amplify the product. There's special commemorative badging on it. So not only on the front and the gold logo that's on the black Quadrex grill, but on the back you get a commemorative plaque that says, well, first of all, it's got the signature of Chris Hagan, who is the principal system engineer that did the product. And then it'll say, pair out of 750, this is pair number, 1 or whatever you have. So you've got that certificate of authenticity. The products also come shipped in a wooden crate with a pair of the JS120 floor stands. So you get everything that's there kind of all wrapped together in a package. And again, only 750 pair of these that will be built. And we're pretty much going to be sold out of them by the time they hit the warehouse. So I think the demand and the feedback on it has been incredibly high. And it's, I think, something special when you look at how many people that out there that collect vintage JBL loudspeakers and a lot of these special models out there. There's going to be a pretty big demand for it. So
yeah.
That's.
Can you kind of clue me in on that? Because I'm curious, as if there's obviously the whole vinyl resurgence, and a lot of it is like a millennial thing, and also a nostalgia for just that sound from folks that knew it from before. Is that kind of the combination of this, or is it really just old fans of JBL, like from way back, that want to reclaim this style from the 70s that they maybe got rid of when they were younger, or it doesn't hold up over because they didn't take care of it or something? What do you think as far as like what because I would never want to imply that your products don't hold up from the 70s, because that's probably not the case. But what do you think the fan base is for this the retro stuff?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of these historic JBL models, the market value on them is still very, very high. And if you look at, what's the going, price for a pair of L100s from the 70s, there's still a lot of money for them. So they've held their value very, very well. It's a combination of things. When we set out to do that, the L100 Classic, which is now, the commemorative L100 Classic 75 limited edition, the whole appeal of this was use the retro design. It's one of the most recognizable loudspeakers ever. And so we wanted to use that appeal. There were so many people when we first brought that back out, the people that came up and said, oh my gosh, I had these back in the day. I wish I'd never gotten rid of them. Or, my dad had them. In the case of, younger customers, they grew up with them, but it was their parents that had them. So there was certainly that appeal. But we wanted to take that appeal and combine it with very, modern, audiophile type performance on the acoustic side of it. And so for us, there are a lot of things that we put into the product that we didn't have those technologies or weren't in that product originally. There. So we've got a product that looks old, but is, an amazing sounding product. It sounds, as good as any other type of audiophile, loudspeaker would be in that price range. And it gave us both the great sound, the vintage appeal, the retro look. And that that worked so well for us. And of course, now that spawned the LB2, which is the smaller, 8-inch two-way version of it. That's done extremely well for us. And again, looking at some of these vintage things, and as I travel around the world and you go into some of these hi-fi shops and whatnot, there's a love, and it's a bit of a niche market for sure, but some of the electronics that JBL did in the 60s and 70s are very sought after still, and hard to find. But we have a collection of vintage product in the office, and we kept coming back to this integrated amp, the SA600, that was, I think it was late 60s. It was originally launched, and it became a SA60 as it moved into the 70s and became more black than silver, right?
Okay, sure.
As the times changed. But we said, here's another opportunity to do the same thing. And we looked at this as an opportunity where there really wasn't anything like it in the market. But let's take, again, that retro appearance of the amplifier, but put in completely modern electronics. And when you think about, obviously it was a very different world of source units in the 60s and 70s of, vinyl or reel-to-reel tape machines and whatnot. But today, with the SA750, now we've got a product that's in a vintage cabinet. It's got the teak wood side panels, the same veneer that we're using on the limited edition L100. You've got this beautiful silver brushed aluminum front panel, the knurled machine knobs and the levers and switches on the front. It looks very retro, a minimal display on the front, which of course didn't exist in the 60s. But then when you look inside it, Class G amplification, which that's a technology platform that we use not exclusively, extensively in Arcam products. And so it's the benefits of a Class A performance with efficiencies of, much more, like an AB or even a D in terms of the power and capability you get. So let's use that as the heart. So an amazing amplifier platform. And then we put in, a high-res DAC. We've got our streaming capabilities. So our platform that we use there that is capable of Apple AirPlay 2 and Google Chromecast. And you've got the MQA decoding through the high-res DAC, and you've got Roon endpoint capability. We took it even further to put, Dirac Live room calibration in it. You've got phono input, you've got headphone capability, and a world of analog connectivity, if you still need it, is there. So really to make an ultra modern integrated amplifier in terms of the sound quality, the features and the capabilities with it, have it packaged in that retro design. And certainly, when we announced that one yesterday, we had shown it privately to a few people prior to the global announce yesterday, and they were like, that's something special. But I can tell you the buzz we've generated with that yesterday, that's going to be a really, really cool piece, because it's just, again, it kind of feeds both sides of it. It gives you everything you want. It's amazing sound quality, all the features you want, but it's got this cool retro look that there's really nothing else like it on the market. And of course, we would recommend that it is the perfect pairing for a pair of the L100s or the L82s and some of our JBL loudspeakers. If you want to put together a really cool looking system, but has all this modern sound in it, that's a great pairing to do as well.
And is that as limited as the speakers are, or are there more opportunities for people to buy those integrated amplifiers?
No, we've not limited that one to a specific number of units in it. And, out of the gate, so these first production units absolutely for certain have the same teakwood side veneer panels that we have on the loudspeakers. But we've not limited that. So it may, we could run it for a year and then maybe change that to a different look on the woods. But we could also run it a little bit further. We'll see where the market demand goes for it. But again, while it is kind of an anniversary piece, it's not a specifically limited production like the loudspeakers are.
Yeah. And so not to make it sound like all you're doing is retro, you also introduced some new synthesis, JBL Synthesis products, which is your top of the line home theater brand that just blows people away with its output and quality. And so kind of go over what has changed there. What you had a dealer advisory panel, it looks like, that helped to kind of drive some of the ideas here on some of the new stuff.
Yeah, we set about, it's been a couple years now, but looking at JBL Synthesis, which for those that aren't familiar with the brand, it's really a turnkey cinema solution. So it's products that were designed and engineered up front to work together as a system. And it's also custom calibrated to the room using the Harman target curve for response. So we're involved at every aspect, helping specify the systems up front. And again, products and systems that are recommended of the products that'll work together are designed to work together. But then even once it's installed is to go in and do that custom calibration to get the performance we want. So that's, been a great brand for us. And when we went back and looked at how to update it, a couple of years ago, we introduced our first synthesis custom loudspeakers, which the SCL3 and 4 were the first ones. We expanded it to the SCL2, but it was to take some of our transducer technology and create in-wall compression driver loudspeakers to really elevate the performance of what you could do in a loudspeaker. And it was another thing where we kind of looked at the market and there just wasn't anything like it out there. So the typical compromises of shoving a speaker in the wall, both in terms of the quality of cabinet that a wall is for a loudspeaker, as well as the placement options and things like that, we were able to overcome a lot of that with the loudspeaker technologies. So as we were looking to kind of take that to the next level, and you know from CEDIA 2019 now, when we introduced new electronics for the brand, our new 16-channel processor, our first AVR, also 16-channel product, we were putting together this product council, basically, of some of our top dealers and distributors around the world, and said, let's use these guys up front because they're the ones that are doing these installations. Let's have a conversation about what product opportunities are there. What are the things that we're not delivering today that would be helpful to them? We were able to bounce a lot of ideas off of them very early on in the process to make sure that we were on track. And I could tell you, that there were a number of things that came out of those conversations when you've got, tremendously educated dealers and distributors there, and the guys that are doing these installations, to be able to have that conversation that early with them was very helpful. And allowed us to come up with some unique features. And we made changes to some of the things that, as we had it defined early up front, to modify those plans based on those conversations we had with the customers. And now what you're seeing here is some of the first products that have come out of that involvement with the dealer council there. And that is the six products that were announced yesterday. So
okay, walk us through those then, if you can. You don't have to go into the great detail, but just how do those enhance what was happening already with this product line?
Yeah, it's twofold. I think one of the things when we looked at, everybody, when you put somebody in front of a synthesis system and do a demo, it's kind of a done deal for the most part because they're just blown away. Yeah. And the reputation's there, and every year you see it at CEDIA, the line for our demo theater. Everybody loves it. But certainly there's the perception out there of the cost of the systems, that they're very expensive, and I love it, but I can't afford it kind of thing. So the first half of what was announced yesterday, 4 new in-wall and ceiling speakers that are really designed to be complementary to the electronics that we did, the first AVR and the new 16-channel processor that were there, but bring these technologies down to a much lower price point. And we've still maintained our patented compression drivers, our high definition imaging, horn geometry is there, and some very unique features that are with it. I've got actually, this is one of the compression drivers we're using, this 1-inch annular ring compression driver that's found in 3 of the 4 of these new models, and then a larger version of it that's in the 4th one. And so this has really allowed us, when you stop and think about what you can put together for a system, we can do a system now based on the AVR at a much lower price point than we've traditionally been able to do. And you think about how many integrators out there are doing systems, and these big dedicated rooms, for every one of those they might do 10 of lower price systems that are lower channel counts or multi-purpose rooms and things like that. So it really allows us to open up to a much broader audience in that case with synthesis, from a cost standpoint, from a form factor standpoint. It's given us some really cool new technologies in terms of the in-ceiling and one of the in-walls with off-axis capabilities. These new in-ceilings, the SCL8, which is the smaller one, is a winner of a CES Innovations Award this year. And that was a speaker that was designed to have consistent coverage from on-axis to as far out as about 60 degrees off-axis without any apparent roll-off in its performance, which was an amazing thing that the guys accomplished, and it attributes to the unique look of the product there. So those are things that happened on that, those 4 on the low end. The other 2 are on the high end, which is taking it in the other direction of looking for people that are looking for ultimate performance in a private screening room or a cinema application at home. And those are really massive scale. You can't tell from looking at the images that are out there on it how big those products really are, but the capabilities as well. So when you talk about rooms that are 20 seat, 30 seat, even some that have balconies in them, the types of systems you can get is pretty crazy in residential. So to be able to do that on the high end, ultimate performance systems, that's what the flagship SCL1 and SSW1 gave us there. So kind of two new product categories that flank the existing SCL 2, 3, and 4 that we had right there in the middle.
So bear with me while I ask kind of a dumb question, which is how do you get product price down on a product that is a premium to begin with, which is synthesis? You're talking about the dispersion, the coverage. Is that fewer speakers needed in a system to accomplish the same thing with that price point, or is it something to do with materials, or how does that work in terms of making it more affordable?
Yeah, so there's the physical format, the actual size of it, right? So the new products that we have, the SCL 8, the SCL 6 and 7, all of those are based around 5¼ inch woofers and this compression driver here that we talked about. So that's one thing. But we done, from a capability, from the design standpoint, this is actually, I have this one here at home from another conversation, but this is a 6½ inch version, but it's basically the same as this. You shrink this to a 5¼ So you're talking a cast frame and a big ferrite motor structure and our advanced aluminum matrix cone and all the things that go into the voice coil and the motor structure design. That in a 5¼ inch version is what we used in these products. So they're very, very high performance transducers. But when you compare it to like the SCL 3 and 4, some of the larger ones, those have enclosures on the back of them. So they come with a wooden enclosure. Right. These do not. These are more traditional in-wall and ceiling, open back, infinite baffle type products. We did create a new mounting mechanism for them, this cat claw mounting mechanism that allows them to just click right into the wall to make it easier for integrators and installers. But, when you look at that, that's one of the ways that we were able to get the cost down on them. Now it's relative, right? Because we're at $1,000 a piece for the SCL 8, the SCL 7, $1,500 a piece for the SCL 6, $2,000 a piece for the SCL 5. But those price points are significantly lower than the 3 and 4, which are $3,000 a piece, or the SCL 2, which is $6,000 a piece. So when you take that then and multiply it times 7 or times 11 or whatever, whatever the channel count is in the system, now you're talking about savings of thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to put a system together. But we're still going to give you that same performance. The ability is greater now with 8 loudspeakers in the range and 4 subwoofers that you can mix and match whatever you want. And while this is the small version, when you scale this driver up to a bigger motor structure for this, and then go to a dual 1½ inch version and then a dual 3 inch version, you're getting the same technology. And it's also, again, this is from one of the HDI bookshelf speakers, but that same HDI horn geometry is found in all of these speakers all across the range. So it is really allowed us to open up to much greater system capability with the brand than we had before, but consistent in terms of sound quality. So now it's kind of really a matter, you're going to get the same level of performance out of a synthesis system. It's just how big was the room and how loud did you want it to play. That's kind of where you start to scale.
So is it synthesis the only one that you really do the horn and compression driver combination in your loudspeaker lines?
No, all the from a JBL loudspeaker standpoint as well. It's the same technology that's used there. As I mentioned, these examples that I just showed you actually come out of the HDI series of JBL loudspeakers, which was introduced, last year.
But that's unique to JBL, I guess, is the better question.
It is unique to JBL and JBL Synthesis. But obviously with our Revel brand, we use a different approach there. There's a lot of similarities, of course, because it's the same science and research that backs it all. But all the Revel products use an acoustic lens with a waveguide, which gives a lot of the same advantages. I think a lot of people probably don't realize how similar the HF section in a Revel product is to a JBL, but it's just a different approach, right? Now, our science doesn't change. Everything that we do is based on decades of research from Harman's leading scientists, Floyd Toole and Sean Olive and Todd Welty and all these people that everybody knows in the industry. So we adhere to that, but the resources that we have give us the ability to use a different approach to achieve a similar result. So
yeah, it's always been impressive to me to watch a company like Harman take a product that now is like in the 75-year range, in terms of technology, but then it evolves over time. And how do you keep improving something that seems like there's a finite ability to improve the way something sounds, but you keep finding new ways with material science, with different shapes and sizes of things and capabilities that make it a better product and introduce new things. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that's, I think some of those major breakthroughs here in the last few years, that these products that were announced yesterday feature a lot of that. This compression driver technology, there's a number of patents around this. This is, these drivers were designed right here in Northridge in our facility, but the advantages of this design really were a fairly major leap in terms of performance. Traditional compression drivers on the pro side haven't really changed for 80 years. So to do something different in that respect and be able to create a product that had significant advantages over those traditional designs, that was huge. Same thing with the horn geometry. What was done, the unique geometry, it's kind of hard to see here, but I refer to these technically as the pinchy points that are down in here, but to address throat resonances and things that are here, just the science that goes into horn design, the math that's in a horn like this is massively advanced, but the guys are constantly searching for ways to improve these designs. And the HDI geometry here is the latest there in that technology to really improve the horn. And so when you start to add these things up, a better compression driver with better horn geometry and the advances we have in the motor structures and the design that the guys do here with material analysis on the cones and everything, allows you to have these improvements in performance. It's great to have, the type of resources that we're able to work with at Harman are kind of second to none. And then when you put us under the corporate umbrella with Samsung as well too, that is a very pleasurable thing to have these types of resources available as a product guy. So.
No doubt. I'm sure that's the case. Well, Jim Garrett, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about Harman Luxury Audio. Happy anniversary to JBL, and I hope you have a great 2021.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. I appreciate the time, and Happy New Year. Have a great 2021.
Also, thanks to everybody for joining us. Be sure to comment, share, or subscribe to the podcast. And you can check out all the latest residential tech news at restechtoday.com. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential Tech Talk, lighting specialist to residential tech. Home automation, smart device, home or smart house.